What is one thing you had never noticed before it was pointed out to you, but now you notice it all the time? That in ancient cultures 40 was used as a general quite a few, not an uncountable amount, not infinite, but more than you want to casually count. In these old civilizations, where literacy was a treasure, being able to count to 40 was as much as most people cared to do. Now anytime I hear Bible stories, it strikes me, again, how silly literal interpretation based on the English version is. Reigned for 40 days and 40 nights equals it reigned for quite a while. Fasted and prayed for 40 days. Wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. It is everywhere. In movies when people crawl through the air conditioning ducts, somehow it always seems to be perfectly lit inside the duct. No air flowing. Very clean and no screws to tear them up. I have worked around enough commercial HVAC equipment and installations to know that these are the stupidest things I have seen in movies and shows. In the real world you would not be able to be fighting very cold and fast air flowing while getting tore up by all the screws used to put the ducts together, plus it will not be at all clean. Whoever came up with this misleading idea for entertainment is a jerk and a liar. In movies or TV shows where the characters are in a car and the camera is shooting through the windshield, most of the time the rearview mirror is missing unless it's needed for the shot for some reason. Also, if there's someone in the back, they always sit in the middle seat. Bad butt characters in movies often have a scene where they take a bite out of an apple. Once you notice it, you see it all the time. And they never finish the freaking apple. My friends showed me how sometimes in a movie, when there's a character approaching the camera, they'll glance down at an out of shot cue spot taped on the ground before the scene starts so they know exactly where to stop walking. Ever since he pointed that out to me, I notice it in nearly every movie I see. In any show or commercial with animated Mickey Mouse, no matter what way he turns his head, his ears stay two perfect circles that slide around his head. Even in the 3D where you see the perspective of his nose turn, those ears stay 2D and facing straight. Watching 3D Mickey, his ears slide across his head as it turns. Cashiers at Trader Joe's will always positively comment on one of your items, particularly food. I've had those, they're delicious, or oh, I haven't tried those yet but I tried the peanut flavor and they're amazing, etc. I told my wife about it and she dies a little inside every time she goes to Trader Joe's now. Just seconds before a commercial break starts, the network logo will disappear from the corner of the TV screen. Now I'm like the commercial break Nostradamus to all my friends. And the last commercial of a break is usually for another show on the same channel, since it's the ad most people are likely to see if they go do something in the break and come back. That salivating feeling right before you vomit. Some author wrote that little detail in a book, and now I'm super aware of it every time I feel sick or nauseous. I noticed that. It's always how I've known when I was about to vom. Helps when I need those few seconds to get to the bathroom. When I was about 10 years old, I took vocal lessons for a little while. For one of the songs I wanted to learn, the teacher told me that I kept singing "chew" instead of "you." She said people do it all the time when singing, and it always annoys her when she hears it in a song. Now I hear "chew" constantly when the singer is trying to say "you." How do I live without? Chew has always bugged me, thanks to a choir teacher. When we first started dating, I told my husband that sitting with your wallet in your back pocket can be bad for your back. 10 years later he still gives me a look whenever he sits down and takes his wallet out of his pocket. I wish my wallet was fat enough to give me back problems. Whenever a camera is behind the person talking, 90% of the time the audio doesn't match their mouth. Ruined a lot of TV shots for me. Cooking baking shows use lots of really short, fast cuts to up the tension. If they lingered any longer on someone cutting up a celery stick or icing a cake, it'd look as boring as it really is. How I interrupt people when they speak. I grew up in a large household, so if you wanted to be heard you had to talk over people, so it kinda just became natural. My family is like this too. Loud, talking over others and interrupting. After a few get-togethers my wife asked why we always fight. I was pretty taken aback because no one fought at any time. Turns out it's just that we've all got ADHD in a family of 7. We get excited, loud, and have a good time. Others are frightened. Netflix has personalized thumbnails for movie titles served up by an algorithm. I always wonder why the same titles have different images for me and my wife and what it means. Almost all car scenes in movies, where the actors are inside driving around, they remove the seat's headrests. My dad pointed it out to me and it looks so strange now. They remove the rear view mirror a lot too. My husband pointed out that when you stop at an intersection and look around a lot of times you can spot people picking their nose. I can't stop seeing it now. I read about a Darwin Award nominee that died when he got into an accident while picking his nose. Apparently his finger was jammed into his brain. You're dang right, I wait until I'm at a stop. A previous time one of these threads came up, I learned that Whoopi Goldberg has no eyebrows, and now it's all I see when I look at her. You mean don't see? My room in Chicago has a window next to the alley. People honk when they pass it because they don't want to slow down and look for pedestrians. This happens at all hours of the day night. I grew up in that room from the '06 but never noticed it until my mom pointed it out over a decade later. Now it drives me crazy. This is a thing in Chicagoland. Passed down generation to generation. You slow down, look and honk. It's not just for pedestrians but other cars going by. Used to be even more alleyways and gangways in our area than there are now. It's a courtesy thing. How I constantly do a slight laugh at the end of my sentences. Crap does not feel good when one of them started mocking me with Goofy's laugh. This may sound weird, but ad hominems. My best friend, who was on a debate team, introduced me to the term. For anyone who doesn't know, an ad hominem is when you attack the person rather than the argument position he has, i.e. telling a guy he is too young to understand politics. And since he told me about it, I've noticed how almost every person I try to have a discussion with, at some point, says an ad hominem to try to discredit my point by referencing me instead of explaining why the point is wrong. I realize then how often I use it during arguments, and I now actively try to stray away from it. Well explained. Most people don't have a clue about this. Didn't have it pointed out to me, but every time I change vehicles I seem to notice the same make and model on every street corner. Any kind of plan in a movie or TV show, if the plan is explained beforehand, it will fail. If it's not, it will succeed. And if it's I have a secret task for you followed by whispering into the ear of the other guy, then the plan will execute spectacularly. For any guitarists out there, I haven't been able to use thin picks since someone pointed out the thwap sound they make when you strum. I haven't been able to use thin picks since I used a heavy one and found out how much easier you can pick with them. My friend pointed out that my fiance is a very loud chewer. Now I can't stop hearing how loud he chews. I went 8 years without noticing. Glass shattering sound. I point this out to others. There is a really annoying bell that plays in the background of Yeah by Usher every 7 or 8 beats. Really ticks me off. And an annoying bloop of a noise in the background of Counting Stars by One Republic. I never consciously noticed it, but I guess I assumed it was an effect of some sort. Nope. Now I can't stop imagining Usher jingling a tiny bell while singing in the studio. Apparently I walk like a penguin. One of my legs is shorter than the other, so I waddle. A friend told me one day and I've been self-conscious ever since. Most fire hydrants in the US have the year of manufacture embossed on the back. It can often be helpful for determining the age or street, assuming it wasn't a replacement for a previous hydrant. I was a utility locator back in 2011 to 2012, and now I can't go anywhere without seeing all the markers for buried stuff. Risers, handholds, manholes, amplifiers, pedestals, meters, regulators. A small, inconspicuous blue light installed near a busy intersection that operates exactly in time with one of the signals. It's viewable from an area where a waiting police officer, who cannot actually see the traffic signal, can then know without a doubt who ran the red, and is then in a position to easily and safely make a traffic stop on the offender. I was on a ride along a few years ago with one of our local officers who pointed this out to me. This particular one was slave to a left turn signal and it was positioned on the back of the signal pole such that the officer was ready to pull over scofflaws as soon as they completed their illegal left turn. If an action movie has a female character with combat skills, you can bet there is a scene where she throws an enemy by doing this weird move where she wraps her legs around the enemy's head and spins. Fight choreography in movies has gone to complete crap in the last 10 years and it's mostly poorly done fast cuts that are really hard to follow, John Wick excluded. If an action movie has a female character with combat skills, you can bet there is a scene where she throws an enemy by doing this weird move where she wraps her legs around the enemy's head and spins. As much as I love the MCU, this is literally 50% of Black Widow's fights. That's basically the only version of Big Rock Candy Mountain that you hear. The one by Harry McClintock that was played in Oh Brother Where Art Thou is the exact same recording. How do I know this? Because the guy slips up when the song gets fast and says Big Rock Candy Mountains. Every cop on the force trying to make things right in his cramming marriage will come home with groceries to make dinner and there is a loaf of French bread standing up. That's a real specific example. Baguette peeping out is a ubiquitous generic film grocery item. It's to tell people this brown bag contains food without having to look at the pesky labels most groceries have. When they arrive on your floor, elevators will ding once to indicate going up, twice to indicate going down. This is to help the blind. Not all of them. The one where I work doesn't make noise. I used to make a lot of jokes at the expense of my friends. They would vary in nature but my ultimate aim was to try and make fun of them whenever the opportunity arose. Recently I had one of my friends point this out to me, and fixing this awful behavior of mine has become one of my longer lasting New Year's resolutions. I'm thankful to my friends for tolerating a less than ideal version of myself over the years. They are a really good crew and I'm working to apologize to every single one of them personally at some point this week. I once read that the word homeowner has meow in it. Now I can never read it without pronouncing it homeowner no matter how hard I try. It drives me crazy. Crossing my arms when I'm upset with people. I saw someone talking about a character I like, saying that crossing your arms is a sign of shutting people out. Ever since then, I always notice when I cross my arms. It's really weird, cause I don't remember ever crossing my arms before that. Laugh tracks and TV shows. I watched a few show clips without them and not only do you realize it's not funny, all you see are the weird pauses in conversation. Always Sunny in Philadelphia did an episode mocking laugh tracks and it ruined that 70s show for me. The day I got my hearing aids we were driving home and I used the turn signal and it made a clicking noise. I thought something was wrong. My partner was astonished to inform me that it had always made that sound. Midwesterners always say oop. Almost run into someone. Oh, sorry, I say it so much and it drives me crazy because I can't help it. Oh, there goes gravity. A lot of the time in movies or shows, clock lengths might change drastically between shots because of the natural passage of time between takes. I always keep my eyes on the clocks ever since I noticed it in an episode of iCarly. Edit. I can't believe my most upvoted comment is about iCarly. On TV shows, when characters talk to each, there's always an over-the-shoulder camera angle used. Sometimes the person talking is the one whose shoulder is being looked over. If you watch, that person's head doesn't move even though they're talking, and when the camera cuts to looking at them their head is bobbling around. Drives me mad. It is illegal to drink alcohol in a commercial. Not one beer commercial actually shows anybody drink the beer. It's ruined every commercial for me. Gave a friend, we'll call him P, and his friend a lift home one night after quite a few. Friend's friend gets out of the car and says loudly to P, "Tell Bugs Bunny I said thanks." P can't quite believe it and asks him to repeat it. Bugs Bunny driving there, you know, because of her front teeth. They're only slightly larger than normal but frick you because now I hate all photos of me now when I smile with my mouth open. Said 3 years ago and still stings. I had an ex's friend say to me once, "Girl, you've got some really fricked up teeth." Completely out of nowhere, and ever since then I've hated my teeth deeply, and I avoid smiling with them at all costs. It sucks. I feel for you. That guy's just an butthole. Mine are just terribly crooked, but I didn't get to choose how they grew into my head. Regardless of where you are in the US, Freemason symbols and Freemason lodges are everywhere once you start keeping an eye out for them. And yet I've never known anyone who is an actual member other than old men. Jennifer Aniston has a verbal pause before most of her lines in Friends. It's extremely distracting when you notice it. She also clears her throat all the time. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.